Well, I'm glad to be asked. It's nice to get the old man out of the cupboard now and then, isn't it? Get him out for a bit of an outing. So I'm quite happy to talk to people. I don't talk to anybody normally.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Portable Trevor here, and today we have a legend in the house. Today we have Grant Kirkhope. He has composed for so many video games that I grew up with: Goldeneye, Banjo-Kazooie. Here's the man. Like, what's up, Grant? How you doing, man?
That's me. I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. What have you been up to during this quarantine?
Well, just the same thing, really. I just sit here and write music, right? So that's what I've been doing. It's got a little bit slow, actually, because I guess the people that I'm working for right now have had to adapt to, working from home. So it takes those big companies, some time to get it started. But, a little trickles are coming in. So, I guess I've not been as busy as normal. But for that reason, that people are working from home a little bit more. So I guess it takes more to get me to do stuff. But I have done a little bit of work, so I've not been completely slacking off.
I got you. Are you allowed to say what you're working on?
I'm afraid not. It's like in video games, you can't mention a word. It's funny, like in movies, like when they announce a composer, it's like, yeah, it's all great. But in video games, they just, I guess because you can't mention the game, right? Because it's a secret game, right? So they couldn't say, you just can't do it, I'm afraid. That's it. It's a bit of a shame.
I guess I can ask this question for past games. Have you ever been offered or you got the gig for a particular game that just really got you giddy and excited? You were like, oh my gosh, I'm composing for this.
Well, it has to be Mario Rabbids, right? I mean, to get, to write music for Mario, and I do think I'm the first Western composer to write for Mario. I might be wrong, but I think I am. Well, that was ridiculous, right? Like, I don't know. I still find it hard to put that into words, and I still almost think I really didn't do it. It's just a bit of a dream. So that was crazy. Like, I got a little email from this guy called Gianmarco Zama, who's a producer at Ubisoft Milan, on LinkedIn of all things. I've never get anything on LinkedIn. Like, I keep thinking, why do I keep bothering with it? But I got that email from LinkedIn. He just sort of said, dear Mr. Kirkhope, we've got a game we think we'd like you to have a look at. Are you interested? Like, in a very polite way. And I sort of said, yeah, I'd love to look at it, because I thought, you never know, do you? So I had to get the NDA sorted out. That took about a little bit of while to get to them, to my agent, to me, to my agent, back to them, and all that nonsense. And they said, well, look, and I found out it was called Rabbids Kingdom Battle. I was like, oh, cool, it's a Rabbids game. I like the Rabbids, because my kids
didn't have the Mario yet.
No, I didn't know that, right? So my kids watched the cartoons. I thought the cartoons were funny. I feel like the Rabbids were like a predate to the Minions, really. I feel like they were the Minions before the Minions were the Minions. They were that kind of crazy thing. Mm-hmm. So it was agreed that I'd get a flight across to Paris to the main Ubisoft studio, and then Milan guys had a flight to Paris and we'd meet there. So I met there, and it was in the kind of foyer thing, and the kind of all came to meet me at the door and took me through the back to this room. There's lots of security keys, and I was thinking, this is a bit crazy for a Rabbids game, right? Everyone knows a Rabbids, like, it's not that, Anyway, so I got back some more security doors, and then into the room where all the programmers were sitting, and I got taken to a room at the side. And Davide Soliani, who's the creative director, and Romain Brio, who's the audio director, was sat in this little room. And it was like all a bit secret. I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? Something happened, I don't know about. Davide said, I suppose I better show you the game, right? So he turned the TV on, and Mario stood there. And I thought perhaps he'd been playing Mario, because we're bored, waiting for him to turn up. I thought playing a game perhaps. And then he started to leave Mario around the screen. I was like, what's this, Davide? He said, it's a Mario game. Did no one tell you that? I was like, no.
Oh my gosh.
Like, no one. And I was like, what are you talking about? He said, well, it's Mario. I said, this is the first I've heard of it. And they both said that I went completely white as a sheet. And even though I was jet lagged, right? I was jet lagged anyway. But they said, like, you sat there for about an hour and didn't say anything. We all thought you hated the game because you didn't say anything. And I was just sat there absolutely panicking, going, how am I going to possibly write music for Mario after Koji Kondo, who is the legend that he is, and it's just little old me here? How am I going to do that without everybody hating me and my kids never speaking to me again? I just thought it's just going to be, it's not going to work. I was just, and I was kind of equal parts excited and equal parts dreading it, going, how am I going to do it? So that went by the next day, and I got a flight home, and just on the flight, I was just thinking, how am I going to do this? It's not possible. I'm not good enough,
Dude, I love that. And I watched the little documentary. Who did that on you, like, for your piece? Somebody made that online. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the one on my website.
Yeah, I did see that on your website, and I love that story. But I think what really intrigued me the most was they actually handed you the assets, like all the sheet music for like Mario's music. What was that like being handed that from Nintendo?
So that was just little bits, right? So I had to do some of the wanted some of the little Mario win and lose ditties put up with live orchestra. That one, the Game Over one, right? So I had to try and transcribe it from ear because I've got no music for that. So I went to YouTube, found a little ditty and listened to it on my ears and worked it out and, sent it off. And I'd got some of the parts mixed up. I think maybe octave-wise. I'm not sure what I did wrong, but something wasn't right. The harmony was right, but they were in the wrong position or whatever it was. So I got a little email from Nintendo, super polite, it's just sort of saying, "Dear Mr. Kirkhope, we love your rendition of the Mario lose sting, but could you please just change it to the right thing?" And they sent me a little bit of sheet music, and that was one of those moments when I just kind of went, God, bloody hell, I've just got a piece of sheet music from Nintendo, and it's Mario's win lose ditty. It's like one of those moments that you pinch yourself. Like when I was doing the cinematic sequences, and my son would walk past the door and see me, he'd go, "Dad, that's Mario on screen." And you'd have to kind of go, God, it is, really are writing music for Mario. Like, absolutely incredible. So there was tons of little moments like that where you kind of pinch yourself and go, if you told me in 1995 when I started writing music for games at Rare, I would never have believed it. Like, I would just go, that is a ridiculous thing to think. So, I don't know, crazy.
And I think that's also a good segue to talk about you kind of blown up on social media recently because fans have been wanting you to make the music for the new Mario movie. Can you talk about that? Like, that must have been a surprise. Like, whoa, well, that would be awesome if I, got to write for the Mario movie too.
Well, I just made a bit of a flippant comment, like, because I see it posted around now and then, and I would love to have a crack at that. I feel like I could do it. And I do feel like a lot of times when games get made into movies, they very rarely ask the game guy to do it. They always get one of the Hollywood guys to do it. And I kind of feel like it's not like we haven't got the ability to do it. Us game guys can write music like that. We all spend hours writing huge, great cinematic sequences. Like in that game I did, Kingdom of Amalur. It's great, big RPG, massive thing, and there's plenty of like stuff in Mario Rabbids. There's and civilization. It's all over the place. Like we can do it. It's not like it's impossible. But they never think about it, right? So I just did my usual flippant comment, just in case they're looking for a composer. I'm free, not thinking anything of it. And then that bloody game site picked it up, whatever it was, a comic.com thing, whatever it was, and another site. And before I knew it was everywhere. So
yeah, it really blew up.
Well, it wasn't really intentional. Obviously, it was massively appreciated on my behalf that people think I could do it, and I'd love to do it. And, in all earnest, I am trying to get somewhere near that thing. Whether I get anywhere near it or not, I don't know. I'm trying. I live in LA. I'm, at Santa Monica Studio, the studio that are making it. So, all I can say is, if I don't get it, it won't be if I want to train. You know what I mean?
Anyone in the chat right now, if you work in Hollywood, please get Grant Kirkhope in the Mario movie.
That illumination. I kind of feel like I'd like to even just demo for it. Give me a chance to demo for it. If it's crap, it's crap. Fair enough. But I feel like, give me a chance to demo for it, because I will quite literally pour my entire existence into that project. If I got that opportunity, I would treat it with such reverence. And also, I've worked with Nintendo now. I know what they're like. I've had to use Koji Kondo's music already, and I know how respectful you have to be. They cherish that music, and rightly so, because it's brilliant music, right? And I think you have to be. When I did the Peach's Castle thing in my Rabbids, I had to take his theme and work it into my stuff, and that kind of thing. So, I know how to do it to keep them happy. Because Nintendo, as I say, rightly so, are very protective of Mario and all his music and all his stuff, and he should be, because he's a legend, right? So I just feel like, I don't know, I'd like a chance at it. I fully expect to get absolutely nowhere. I'm sure I'll get nowhere near it. I'm sure I will.
How much creative freedom did you have on that project?
My Rabbids, quite a lot. Davide and Roma, I can't pronounce it. It looks like Romain, but I think it's like pronounced Roma. So Davide Soliani, Roma Brio, they give me a lot of guidance about how they wanted it to be. But I guess, because I've been around a little bit, quite a while. Pardon me. I guess they think, people hire me generally they know what to expect when they hire me. It's going to sound like one of the games I've done in the past, probably, whether that's Civilization or Kingdoms of Amalur or Mario Rabbids or whatever it is, or Banjo or Perfect Dark, or they know the kind of things that I can write. I'm not saying that's all I can write, but it's a pretty good idea what I can do. So yeah, I feel like a decent amount of freedom in that game.
Because you're known for kind of having quirky music and for a perfect example, Banjo-Kazooie, like whenever you did, like I don't think anyone had ever heard anything like that in a video game before. It had so much personality to it. So to make that transition over to Mario, I feel like it just made sense because Banjo-Kazooie was kind of like Mario 64 at the time.
Yeah, and I think that I'm not a one-trick pony. I can do more than that, but
Oh, I know you can.
but I always say that as a composer, if you're just known for one thing, that is amazing. If people around the world like one thing that came out of my head, if it's one bar, I still find that amazing because it's something you've dreamt up messing around on the keyboard, and somebody went, "Oh, I like that. That's great." Like that's I don't care how many people like it. If it's one or a million, it still feels like the same thing to me. Like I'm not like an egotistical type composer bloke. I'm not like that at all. I hate that stuff, right? I'm just a bloke, right, that writes music and people like it, great. That's I always try and remember that. I'll never get wrapped up in that. In America, they've got that phrase, don't drink your own Kool-Aid, and I'll never do that. It's not me at all.
And I think it shows like that your music can stand the testament of time because like I mean I feel like it'd be a crime if I just didn't talk about Banjo-Kazooie on this show. But like even over 20 years later, I'm still humming like this whole entire week I've been looking forward to this and I've been humming like Banjo-Kazooie music and like Goldeneye music, and I think that just shows like how like well you did on that soundtrack.
That's I guess that still amazes me to this day that 20 odd years later people still listen to it. It's like when I wrote it in 1996 probably when I probably started that game, so around about then, you don't for 1 minute think it's going to last 20 odd years. You think it's going to probably last 6 weeks when it comes out. People are going to forget about it, right? You never think about stuff like that, or otherwise you go crazy. And I mean, it's hugely humbling for me to think that people still like that all this time later. And it's it's low sample quality. It's not the best quality music, sonically. You think I don't know. I always find that a little bit hard to come to terms with. Really, like I think I only really learned recently, like in the last few years, that if you happen to be on some kind of media that gets into somebody's childhood, between like 8, 9, 10, 12, all that kind of age group, for early teens, I kind of feel like when I was that old, like I remember all the cartoons, when I was a kid back then. I remember Scooby-Doo and all the theme tunes that I used to love and Thunderbirds and all that stuff that I remember the words still, everything. Like you never forget it for the rest of your life, right? So I feel like for that little finite bunch of people who played Banjo-Kazooie, they remember that stuff because played it when they were kids, and it's funny that people now listen to it when they're 20, 30 years old. So,
Yeah, it really resonated with me. And do you have any advice for people that like want to get into music and want to make iconic things like that that people want to like hum whenever they're 30 years later? Because I think that's such a unique talent to be able to make something that you can hum. Like, John Williams has Star Wars, like over 40 years later, people are still humming the Star Wars theme.
I think as a composer, there's lots of little tricks you can do to make melodies stickable. There's lots of little tricks you can do that for stuff like that. I mean, like for instance, if you think about E.T., it goes da 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 da. That's the first bit, right? Second phrase is different notes, da 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 da. So it's a different phrase, different notes, but the same rhythm. So that cements it, right? So you got this, the opening phrase, which is rhythm, melody. Second phrase, different notes, same rhythm. Then da 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 da. Same rhythm again, different notes. So that's the rhythm hammering it home again. Then da 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 da, and then a phrase at the end, right? So you can stick things by the same note over and over again, or if you're not doing that, keep the same rhythm. So that can often, and if you double it up, that makes it more stickable, right? So that's where, and I don't know if I really think about it in that kind of strict theoretical terms, but that's the little tricks that composers do to make things memorable like that. If you've got a really complicated melody, people don't remember it. If it's twisty and windy and doesn't really have anything that repeats in it, you're probably going to forget it. But most of the strong melodies that will have that da 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 da. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Same rhythm again, isn't it? You can see how he's constructed that melody. You can see he's put it together. So, that's those little tricks. And I think for people to try and get into the industry, like I think it's probably pretty hard now because a lot of people want to be composers of games these days. I think it's the new rock star, and I will say that more important than just writing great music and putting it on a website somewhere on YouTube somewhere where no one's going to hear it. Let's face it, no one's going to find it. They're not going to find it. It's kind of that's not really going to get you anywhere. Having the ability is super important, but that's 50% of the battle. The other half of the battle is there's the connections that you make, your networking. That's where you're going to get the work from. So when you do get the chance to do something, you've spent all that time getting good. So when you get the chance, you can nail it, right? So I say, got a game jams, got a cons. You've got to get yourself into an environment where people are making games. There's tons of indie guys sat in their bedrooms making games right now who need music. You've just got to find them, right? I mean, right. I often talk about my friend Danny Baronowski. We're good mates, me and Danny. And Danny did, he's done Binding of Isaac, Super Meat Boy, Crypt of the Necrodancer, that new one out right now with the City Builder thing right now. I mean, Danny's a great composer. Yeah, I mean, great friend, right? But he was that guy that worked in Lowe's and Home Depot and wanted to be a composer like really badly and just didn't know how to do it. So he got one of his tunes. He did a remix of one of the Perfect Dark tunes and got it. And the OC Remix guys liked it. And they put it on the site. The guy that was making Cannibal heard it, said, I like your music. Do you want to write music for Cannibal? So Danny said, yeah, great, I'll do it. Wrote music for Cannibal. That was a popular game. The Meat Boy guys heard that. And then he got Meat Boy, Binding of Isaac. It snowballs on like that, right? And I kind of feel like there's lots of different paths for everybody. It's not one fixed path for anybody, but I feel like you have to find that little thing that you find somebody somewhere, somehow that you can get onto a game, because they're not going to come and find you. If you've got a website somewhere and a YouTube channel, the chances are no one's going to hear it. You've got Absolutely. To get in with the people that are making the games, wherever they are, wherever they're hiding away, you have to find them. And it's hard. And I think that you have to be prepared to put yourself out there and do it. Because I'm not a naturally extrovert, put myself out there person. I'm not like that at all, really. And it's hard for anybody. You have to you just have to put on a brave face and go, this is the only way I'm going to make it.
Yeah, I'm a filmmaker here in Atlanta, and I've had a lot of people ask for advice, like, hey, how do I get in the industry? And like, you pretty much nailed it. Like, connections are everything. Like, this is not a solo thing. Like, you may be able to become the most successful person in the world, and say like, oh yeah, it was all me. But somewhere down the line, someone helped you get to that point,
Definitely.
I saw your interview with, or maybe not even interview, but I remember seeing you on Guest Grumps with Danny or John and Aaron, and you talked about, or they asked you, how did you get your start? And, you didn't just walk into Rare one day and say, hey, give me a job. Like, you had a friend like reach out to you and say, hey, you want to do this? Was that right?
Yeah, so Robin Beanland, we were, I played in local bands, after I left university in 1984, whatever it was, I was 22. I spent the next 11 years messing around in different kind of bands. Some heavy metal, I played trumpet in like a funk soul band, like a working band that was like 4 nights a week for 7 years, literally a long time. I did that band. Went back to metal bands again, played for Little Angels, who were quite successful. Had a #1 album in the UK and toured Bon-Jovi and Brad Adams and Van Halen, did all that kind of massive stadium tour stuff. I mean, I'd done all of that, I got to 33 and that band broke up. And I was like, what am I going to do? So I was playing back in local bands again, getting £35 a night, playing covers, I played in a 70s covers band, wearing flares and all the nonsense of it, all that rest of it. And, you name it, I've done it, right? And Robin was also playing in local bands and we played in a band together and we were friends and, I knew him well. And he was a keyboard player. One day he announced to me, also during that time of 11 years, I spent a lot of time on and off unemployment insurance. And when I was on and off, I'd claim unemployment insurance, go on tour, come back, claim it, So I was on and off unemployment for like 11 years, long time, living with my mother. Yeah. I never moved out, which is great. So he sort of said to me, I've got a job. I was like, what? Like, no one I knew got a job, right? Everyone that I knew just played in bands and scraped by. I never thought I'd ever amount to anything, really. And he said, yeah, I'm going to go write music for video games at a company in the Midlands called Got Rare. I was like, what? Never heard of it, Anyway, so about a year and a half goes by. I said, Grant, you've been on and off employment for like 11 years. Why don't you think you ever should get a job? I was like, well, what can I do? He said, well, why don't you try writing music for video games like I'm doing? I was like, well, when I was at university, when I did a music degree, I was properly classically trained, but I was terrible at harmony. I failed the exam 3 years out of 4. I only just scraped by in the last year. I was being a composer was nothing further from my mind. So I was so bad at harmony, I just didn't understand it. It was just like, gobbledygook to me. I said, all right. So he had like 1,000 pounds to my name. He said, buy this copy of Cubase, buy an Atari ST and a synthesizer module, Pro Effects. And I played a lot of games because I was on the dole on unemployment. I was playing games all day long, right? Most of the time, that's all I ever did. So I thought I knew how games sounded. So I set about writing music that I thought was appropriate for video games, and I sent Rare 5 cassette tapes over the course of that year, 1994 to 95. I never got a reply, and then out of the blue, I got a letter saying, "Please come and interview." And Dave Wise interviewed me, and I got the job. Couldn't believe it. It was like, my God, I've actually got a job. Like, I've never had a job before, So it was the most ridiculous thing, really. So if Robin had suggested it, I'd never done it. It was absolute fluke. I mean, it was complete fluke. I was, I'd written songs for the metal bands that I played for, but I'd never once thought about writing, I guess proper music. Like, no chance.
What was that interview like? Did he tell you what the game was about, or did he just say, "Hey, we want this game to sound like this"?
So it was him and a guy called Simon Farmer, who was the general manager at Rare at that time. Well, all the time I was there, and they just said to me, I got the letter said, can you please write these 3 pieces of music and bring them down when you come down with you on a cassette? We'll listen to them when we get there. So it was a Batman style orchestral piece, like Danny Elfman Batman, a Mario style platform piece, and a fighting game guitar-based piece, because they were doing Killer Instinct 2 at the time on the arcade machine before it was popular on the machine. So I guess they needed a guitar player for that. And I think Robin was doing that, just thinking we'll get Grant to do it, and so I brought them on cassette tape, and we had a chat, and they played the tapes and said, "All right, we'll let you know." And that was on the Friday, and I got a letter on the Monday saying, "You got the job. Pack your bags and moved out to the Midlands." That was it. It was absolutely crazy. I just don't know. It's such a mess of getting to that point. I guess that's life, right? You don't know what's around the corner, do you? If Robin hadn't done it, I'd never have done it. If he hadn't gone there and started doing video games, I would never have done it. It would never enter my head.
That's amazing. Do you remember the very first song you wrote for Banjo-Kazooie?
I do, because, that's a bit tricky, because I guess you mean Dream or Banjo-Kazooie. So Dream was before Banjo-Kazooie, right?
That's true. It was Dream first. So yeah. I guess did any of the songs transfer to Banjo-Kazooie, or was it all wiped? Because I don't think I've ever seen the demo or anything.
I think some of them did, a little bit. I kind of used bits and pieces after that. My very first Banjo-Kazooie piece was after we'd done Dream for a while, and it was decided that Dream wasn't going to work. And Tim Stamper, who ran the company, came to see me with Greg Mails, who was a designer with him, said, "We changed it to platform game. You need to write some platform music." And I was like, oh. And I'd written 107 pieces of music for Dream at that point. And it was like, oh, so these are all going to get scrapped. And it was like, let's start again. So I needed to write a jolly tune. So I just went, and that was it. So I wrote that, right, thinking I need to write a jolly tune that's jolly platform, not thinking it wasn't for any level or anything. It was just a jolly tune that I wrote, and put some birds in there and all the rest of it, because they like to have birds singing along and the rest, so did that. And then they said, oh yeah, that's fine, right, let's get on with it. So it wasn't until we came to Click Clock Woods that I thought, you know what, that might fit that level. So I dragged it out and went, oh yeah, and that's it wasn't written for that level. It was just written as a general demo kind of thing. But that's
probably my favorite level too.
A lot of the times the tunes that you write in 10 seconds flat are the ones that everyone likes. Like everyone really likes Nabnut, the Squirrels tune, and that literally took me less than 5 minutes to write that. I mean, honestly, because it was right at the end of the game. I needed to write a tune really quick. It was like quick, that'll do. And it's weird how that thing. Sometimes the first thing out of your head is the best idea, and I do feel I'm a bit like that. I'm a really I'm not a very intellectual composer, as you can tell. I'm a bit of a mess around till it sounds good sort of composer. That's the kind of composer I am. So, often when it comes out of my head the first time, it's not going to get any better, and if it's bad, and that's it.
So I guess we should also talk about another big game that you did, because I see it right above your head. It's Goldeneye.
All right.
Is that really the box, or did you print it off?
No, it's when we did the Mario Rabbids launch at the Nintendo store in New York, when me and Davide did it. Some guy printed that out. It's got my face with the glasses on. It's not Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he gave me it for a little gift. So I thought I stuck it on my little wall there. Goldeneye was. So when I first got to Rare, my first job was converting Dave Wise's tunes from Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy Kong's Quest, to work on the original Game Boy, the grey one. So that was my first job. And then I got halfway through that, and I said, look, Graham Norgate, who was also there, was doing Blast Core and Goldeneye at the same time. So I'm getting busy with Blast Core. Can you take over Goldeneye? And I was like, you're joking. I'd love to do that. So he quickly showed me how to work the N64, and I'll have to kind of get things in there. I have to struggle with that for a little bit. And then I got cracking on it. I mean, someone of my age, the Bond movies are like as a kid, that was the biggest movie of the year, always. You know, when that came out, it had the best music, the best effects, the best everything, right? So it was super exciting when a Bond movie came out. So I was like mega excited to get to do that. And I love the Bond tune. John Barry is just amazing composer. You know, so I had the kind of we had a double CD at the time that was all the pop songs of all the Bond movies, like the Shirley Bassey one and all that stuff, you know, all the great music. So I listened to that all the time and pinched pieces of that. And I had the Eric Serra score from Goldeneye, which I didn't really like very much. I kind of feel I didn't like that great, but it got that funny noise in it, which I found on a synth, you know, that kind of sonar noise that's all over my Goldeneye score. I found that in the original movie score. And I kind of found the sound by accident. So, you know, to do that was just fantastic, and to write the Bond theme in different styles and try and take different ways to do it was just absolutely brilliant. And of course, you know, me and Graham shared the music. So after I did the game for a maybe. I got 3/4 of the way through it, and then I got dragged off to do Dream and Banjo-Kazooie, and Graham came back and finished it off. So I guess the music's about equal between us. I think probably equal. And he did the sound effects too. But you know, to get to use the Bond theme is absolutely bloody fantastic. Like, how on earth did I get to do that? That was such a special thing, and just to mess around with it and just go, oh, this is such a great tune. Because one of the old time, you know, I'm sure there's tribes in the Amazon jungle that know that theme, but never even seen the bloody movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's such one of those themes that's it's iconic. It'll outlast all of us. You know, it's just to write.
I've not even
like
played Goldeneye, or no, sorry, I've played Goldeneye. I haven't seen the movie, so I think that tells you how big that game was.
You know, it's often funny. Like over here in America, especially, like Goldeneye was a massive game, like in the college dorms. That was where people were playing it, you know, and 10 million sales or so. And it easily doubled Banjo-Kazooie sales, a little bit more actually. So I tend to get known as the Banjo-Kazooie composer a lot of the time. But when I meet people here, they kind of go, "Hang on a minute, you did Goldeneye? Like, that was way bigger than Banjo-Kazooie." Like, you forget. Just I guess I live in this little Banjo-Kazooie world where just everything's Banjo-Kazooie. So you forget sometimes that Goldeneye was much bigger game. So sometimes I look back and go, how on earth did I manage to do those games? Why was it me that did it and not somebody else? Like, why is that? Is it just luck? I don't know. It must be.
I think what's also fascinating about Goldeneye is I feel like a lot of people, including myself, have a problem if a song isn't the original and it's just like a cover or it just sounds different. But I've never heard anyone complain about the Goldeneye music in the game. Like, it's very faithful and it just works.
I guess that's probably because, me and Graham are just both massive Bond fans, right? Because we just are. You cannot beat James Bond. I can't wait for the next movie to come out. I really like Bond a lot. So to get that opportunity, it was just right up my street. It wasn't one second I kind of went, oh God, it's Bond. It was like, it's Bond, like that. So, it was absolutely incredible.
So this is what we have to do now. We have to get you to compose for the Mario movie and the next James Bond movie. That's what we got to do.
Oh my God. Yeah. Although I can take the pressure. No, I don't know. If I just think that, what's that line in Star Wars where Luke Skywalker says something like, if there's a central point to the universe, we're the furthest point from it, or something like that. In Tatooine, he says something like along those lines, doesn't he?
I can't remember the exact wording though.
So I feel if the Mario movie is the central point of the universe, I'm the furthest point from that movie at the
moment. That's funny. But I feel like every interview you've ever done, I'm pretty sure you've talked about Banjo-Kazooie every single time. Is that fair to say? Probably.
I don't mind, as I said before, to be known for one little thing, that's fine with me. Honestly, it really is.
Yeah. Is there anything like you've never told anyone about Banjo-Kazooie that maybe you'd like to share?
I kind of feel like it's all out there. I mean, I did talk quite a lot on the Game Grumps thing. I can't think of anything that I haven't talked about somewhere. I can't think of anything particularly outstanding. There's a whole FU thing with the flower pots that wasn't really FU. I was saying thank you, but Nintendo wouldn't believe me. And, I don't think there's anything that I can think of really that isn't already out there.
And I'm also this is just a question for me, but I'm a huge Game Grumps fan too. What was it like sitting with John and Aaron?
That was great fun. They're super fun guys. They really are. And John had mailed me years before actually to sort of say, I didn't know who he was at the time, I have to confess. And I got a mail from this guy called John. I was like, oh, yeah, and didn't realize he was a superstar. I was like, oh, my God. And then, so when I moved to LA, they'd done something, but they'd said some nice things about me or something like, oh, John had done that Banjo, the Nuts and Bolts video, or whatever it was, and and I thought he was a super fun guy, and they really liked the soundtrack. And I think me and John had conversed a little bit on email. I sort of said, John, because they live in Glendale, I'm in Agora Hills. I said, maybe I should come down and just say hello and, thanks for saying nice things about me. I kind of felt like, I should do that kind of thing. And he said, well, why don't you come on the show? I was like, well, I said, I could do that. But I don't think I'm very funny. Like, you guys are really funny. I said, I don't think I'm just going to be really boring. You're probably going to go, God, this guy's so boring. Let's get rid of him really quickly like that. He said, no, it'll be fine. I was like, oh God. So I went down and, I met up and we did the show and all that. I didn't really think anything of it. And then it got like a gazillion views. I was like, oh my God, I've just told that story about my testicles to the entire world,
What was the mumbo thing that you told? It was like, oh my knackers.
Umi knacker. So like knackers is like, is a UK slang for testicles, your balls, right? So me and Greg Mayles, the lead designer, said, we'll put it in there, no one will know. Because it's, ooh, me knackers, like that. It was supposed to be that, you see. And so I said, Greg, I've come up with this. I said, yeah, put it in, no one's going to know, are they? So no, I guess they know now, but they didn't know then. But no, John Mayer, I still see Aaron from time to time, here and there. And the super nice blokes. And I love the gay Grumps because I love people who kind of go, we're just going to do it our way and start with this and see where we get. And they just grow into this gigantic thing. And I love people who do things like that. You kind of go, we're doing it our way. I don't care if you like it or lump it. That's the way it's going to be. And like, I love people like that. It shows real spirit.
Yeah, I remember not to go off too far at them because it shows at you, but I was a fan like day one. I remember I was a big fan of John and Aaron, and they announced Game Grumps, and Let's Plays were just taking off, and then they just grew exponentially. And I am so proud of them. I feel like I'm an OG Game Grumps fan.
Yeah, no, I like people who just make something out of nothing. That is fantastic. Like Rare was like that. The brothers who started Rare had absolutely nothing. They weren't millionaires, were nothing. It's two blokes went, we're going to make games and we're going to convince Nintendo to let us do it eventually. And like, incredible. Like they had nothing, not a penny to rub together. That is fantastic to me.
Yeah, that is quite mind blowing. So another question I wanted to ask you is, so regarding writing for music, or have you wrote for films at all, before?
So I've done that short called The Wrong Rock, which is out there right now. It's on YouTube, and I did that with a guy called Mike Kaywood. And Mike Kaywood used to be at Ray, worked on Cameo, and we hadn't seen him for years. And I just noticed on Facebook he was living in LA, and he works on the big blockbuster movies like Bumblebee and Pirates of the Caribbean and Planet of the Apes and all that big stuff, right? Oh, wow. And he does his own stuff on the side. So he said, we kind of bumped into Facebook and got mates again. He said, Grant, I've got a little animation going. You want to write score? I said, yeah, of course I do, because he's a really talented guy and he directs it all, So it's about 14, 15 minutes sort of short animation, but it's a really, I always say if you watch it, I'll guarantee it'll make your day. It's a really super great story. And it's like it's Pixar quality animation. It's not some kind of crappy stuff. It's really, high quality, really well done. So watch that. I have done a movie, funny enough, with Pierce Brosnan, would you believe it? Called The King's Daughter. I did it like 3 years ago. It's not out yet. And they've been fighting over it for ages. It's Pierce Brosnan and William Hurt. And the girl in it's who's just kind of star of it, it's called Kea Scodelario. She was the female British lady in the last Pirates of the Caribbean. So it's big stars, I did it with two other composers. We did it together. And so rumor is it will see the light of day. So that will come out, allegedly. And I have just done a movie called Shadows for my friend Michael Matteo Rossi, who's the director over here. And that's just finished now, so you'll probably get to see that on Amazon Prime. But that's quite synthy. It's not what you think I sound like. It's kind of a gritty, gangy, drug thing movie. But I kind of feel Michael's, he's got like 30,000 Twitter followers of his own. He's in his up-and-coming director. So I kind of felt like it was perfect for me to do it. And we really get along together. I like him a lot. I think he's got a lot of talent. So, I think for me, I want to do it all. I want to do from mobile phones to movies and everything in between. It's not like one thing I want to do. I want to do all of it. That's whatever that is.
That's awesome. And might I say, that is amazing. It's almost full circle that you made a music for a Pierce Brosnan movie. That's amazing.
Crazy, isn't it? Absolutely, I can't believe it. I can't get rid of the guy. It's crazy. I couldn't believe it, really.
That's awesome. If you had to describe your sound, like if a video game company gave you free reign to hey, do whatever you want, what would you say your signature sound is? If you could describe it.
That's a hard one that I don't know, because you usually skew what you write towards what you're writing for, right? Like my favorite things that I've written in my career are probably things like Viva Pinata, because that's the first time I got to use live orchestra, and I like that kind of pastoral sounding Vaughan Williams, Elgar sort of thing. That even though I'm no good as those guys, right? But I was trying to write that kind of music for that. Doing Goldeneye was great. Banjo-Kazooie was great. I was kind of quirky. I love to do Civilization. That was like writing big, epic, spacey music for a live orchestra was fantastic. Getting to write Kingdoms of Amalur was amazing because that was like big orchestra again, with like for a kind of Harry Potter RPG thing, which I love writing music like that. So, of course, My Rabbids, of course, is a complete highlight. So those are my kind of things that I pick out, but that's kind of most of what I've written in my career. So it's not like it's a particular thing.
I remember seeing you saying that Viva Pinata was your favorite score that you've done. And just today I was like listening to a lot of your music, and I believe the track is called Bedtime Story. And
yeah, I do like that
track is absolutely gorgeous. Like, what was the genesis of that?
So I'd seen a movie called, I can't remember the title. I can't believe it. I really like it. For God's sake, Stardust.
Oh.
Stardust. It's got Claire Danes in it, the lady out of Homeland over here, and I can't remember the rest of the stars. But like I think it's based on a Neil Gaiman graphic novel, I think, short little thing, and the movie is absolutely fantastic. It kind of came out and no one really saw it, but I loved it, and the score was absolutely amazing by it's Ilan Kerry or Elan Kerry. He's a British guy, and I loved that score, and I listened to it, and I don't buy that many scores. I listened to that over and over and over again. It was a brilliant score, and when I was writing Viva Pinata, that score's in my mind. So it came to Bedtime Story, I was kind of channeling some of the beautiful music that he wrote for that movie into Viva Pinata. And Bedtime Story also, I think I'd already handed him a resignation at Rare at that point. I was very close to doing it, and I knew I was going to be leaving Rare, so it was a sad time for me, really, because I never thought I want to leave Rare ever, because I love being there. And so that was my kind of goodbye moment. And I always tell the story, but at the end of the recording session, that was the last piece the orchestra played. It was in Viva Pinata 2, kind of the Trouble in Paradise bit. And James Fitzpatrick, who's the guy, the producer there, said to me, you should go out to the podium and thank the orchestra. And, Nick Rain was the conductor. So I wandered out to sort of say, you can thank everybody, they're all inside in Prague. And I kind of went, everybody, I just want to say thank you. I just burst into tears. I went, I had to kind of wander off like a bit of a spaz. So that I love that piece of music, I guess. And also Tranquil Hours on the first game, that's another kind of thing for me. Those two, to get to write that kind of slow, beautiful music, you don't really get that chance that often. So I feel like I really poured my heart completely into Viva Pinata, both of those games. And just, I love doing that. It means a lot to me, that music does.
And I love stories like that, because I feel like maybe people can get lost in the meaning behind a lot of tracks and songs for video games, but I think it makes it that much more special when you have a story like that, especially for Bedtime Story, because I listened to that and almost cried today, especially whenever I heard the story.
Yeah, I think that the titles for the songs, actually, I didn't pick any of the titles. So I'd left Rare by the time the game came out. So the designer on the game, Justin Cook, he named all the tracks because the CD came out quite a bit later. So he named all the tracks. So I didn't name any of them. Mine were all sort of called Day 1, Day 2, Night 2, Night 4, Night 5. That's what I named them, Day and Night. That was it. All the titles are for me.
Do you usually get, or no, wait, sorry, let me start over. Do you ever get to pick the song titles, or is that usually up to the developers?
So I think I do sometimes. It just depends if I get to do it. Because a lot of times when you're writing the piece for the level, it might not be called anything at the time. It might be called Desert or Dusty or Ice or whatever it is, or Haunted. So sometimes, by the time it's done, you kind of scrabble around, try to think of names for the stuff. Like when I did Civilization, there's a piece that I did called Fractal Aquion, which is like they came up with the thing Aquion. They said, "Can you think of another word for it?" And I'm a mad Frozen fan, right? So in Let It Go, she says fractals. I was like, "Oh, that's a great word, fractals. It's icy." So let's call it Fractal Aquion. So that's how it came up with that title. So they do ask you if you can think of it. I mean, at Rare it used to always be the same letter, wasn't it? Mad Monster Mansion. Is that alliteration? I don't know what you call that word, but so it used to try and do it like that. It was always like Jungle Japes. Always the same letter for both words, or whatever, how many words it was. Yeah, so they do ask you. It just depends if you're around at the time to think about it.
I gotcha. So Grant, are you ready to play a game?
I'm always ready. I was born ready.
All right, everyone. So today we're going to play a game with Grant, and I've got two lovely guests with me. They are from this podcast called Games Sold Separately. Basically, the concept is they come up with video game ideas, they come up with levels, and then they come up with the name at the end. So I asked them to come on the show to come up with a video game idea that they're going to pitch to Grant, and Grant is then going to describe how he would do the music. So please welcome Games Sold Separately, Zach and Logan. What's up, guys?
Heyo.
Hello.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Ooh, Logan or Zach's being dramatic.
Zach had a
Yeah.
nice little spin
Hello,
there.
And Trevor, it's nice of you to have us on your podcast.
Yeah. So, guys, I guess you guys have a game to pitch to Grant. So take it away.
Boy, do we. All right, Logan.
All right, Grant. We know you've probably heard a ton of game proposals in your life on what you if you want to do the music for these kind of games, but we've got the best one that you have ever heard.
All right.
It's called Dynamite Vampire Hot Pursuit. And what this game is it is about a vampire detective named Edward von Samsonite. And it's like a 2D kind of point and click adventure kind of game. And Edward doesn't want people to know that he is a vampire. And he has a sidekick whose name is his sidekick just wants to be a vampire. He loves all of the vampire things, so he acts like it. And so his name is Derek Smith, but that didn't sound vampire enough. So he changed his name to Derek Von Smith, and he is hanging out with Edward, trying to learn how to be a cool detective and learn how to be a vampire. And along the way, there is a guy named Brad Helsing, and this is like your macho man. I imagine like Rambo straps. He is a vampire hunter. He is trying to find, he knows that there's vampires in this city, but he doesn't know where. But his best friend, Edward von Samsonite, he knows he is not a vampire. And so they go around solving mysteries, but they keep coming up against all of these classic like vampire tropes. And Zach can take it away a little bit more with the story on that.
All right, yeah. So you play Edward von Samsonite. You are a vampire detective. There has been a murder, and you have to go on an adventure to try to solve who killed this person. And Brad Helsing is convinced that the murderer is a vampire, and so he is hunting a vampire, and you are working alongside of him as a vampire, but he doesn't think you're a vampire at all, right? And so, yeah, but you keep coming up on these tropes like, oh no, you can't progress to a certain area because there's a bunch of rice on the ground. And one of the old vampire tropes is that you can't progress. If there's rice on the ground in front of a vampire, that vampire then has to count every single grain of rice, right? So just stuff like that. I think in reference to things you've done before, this would be more along the lines of like a Grabbed by the Ghoulies kind of sound, just it's a little creepy. It's it's lighthearted. And there's a lot of laughs, a lot of goofs and gaffs in it. But it is like a monster, dark, Transylvanian type setting. And that's pretty much the pitch right there. It's I think in terms of gameplay.
I like it. Well, I think about, sometimes it's good to try to pitch to attach certain kinds of stuff to certain characters.
Yeah. So
to the detective guy, you would need to be that kind of, that film noir sort of sound for the detective guy, like sort of vibes in the back, little vibe chords going, wow, as you wander around, sneak around like that. I like that kind of vibe sound. It sounds like it's cool sound, a little bit of pizzicato strings, probably, something like that. For the vampire himself, so that's what's the vampire's name?
He's Edward von Samsonite.
So I guess like that, I would think, because you need to keep it not lighthearted, not too scary. I guess
Definitely.
That kind of Mad Monster Mansion-y sort of sound to it. So it's got dark harmony, but it's in a fun rhythm. But I'd sort of go for that kind of Beetlejuice approach to that. So it makes it, you're still using that kind of dark thing, but it's lightened by the rhythm or it's lightened by something else. So you're not just got that big oppressive darkness of like a Dracula chord. It's got, like in the Hammer films, you've got that kind of something lightens it. So you may be using dark harmonies and dark melodies, but you got something in the background that sounds comical, like coconuts or something.
Yeah,
like that.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah, so it keeps the humor in there. And what was the other character?
So we've got Derek Von Smith.
He's just a regular guy.
He's a regular guy.
He wants to be a vampire.
100% human.
All of the vampire tropes that he's read about and everything, he will follow them. So if he sees a grain of rice, he doesn't have, or if he sees like a pile of rice, he doesn't have to count them, but he's going to. Like he has to be invited into a building in order to go in that building.
Yeah, and that's a very big gameplay mechanic because there are so many times where you could just send Derek into a building to go get something, right? But he believes he's a vampire and cannot go into that building without being invited invited.
So
Derek is humorous, but he's also very annoying.
So for that, what you need is you need to get some. So when he said there's a bit of rash on the ground, right? You need a big, massive vampire build up to like Derek going, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and then when he gets it, it's like,
right, yeah.
So when he starts counting, so it's like a big build. You think, oh my god, it's a big moment of vampireness, right?
Right.
And when he gets to doing these little tasks, counting his rice, it just flips back to like something that's comical.
Yeah,
maybe a dark harmony, but a comical thing, so you can tell it's meant to be that way.
Right.
So I feel like you need a mixture of all that stuff.
Yeah. So there is the third main character is he is Brad Helsing. It sounds familiar to Van Helsing, but Brad is more like. Have you ever watched Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy?
No.
Oh shoot! Well, there's a guy that has a chainsaw for a leg, and he's very muscular, and he's very rocky. He's a very rocky, long, flowing mane of hair. This guy's a monster hunter, truly to the core. He's the baddest, right? He's
like a much
vibe.
more buff Ash from Evil Dead.
Yeah,
right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he might even have a chainsaw for a leg. But whenever he comes in, it's just Brad's there because he yells. He's a very yelly guy.
Very big presence.
He's very hardcore. He's a very hardcore guy.
Well, you're going to need some kind of super low metal guitar for that, aren't you? You're going to need some really big crunchy power chords or something like that when he appears, so you know it's him. A little bit of leitmotif. So like when he turns up, you can tell that what you could do is you keep the soundtrack going, but you can introduce a level of guitar. So when he turns up, you can just turn it up in the mix. Yeah. So when he goes away, you can take it away. So you can so the guitar always appears when he's like that. So I think a bit of Metallica-esque noise there would probably be quite good.
Yeah, let me pitch this one to you, Grant. So every time Brad comes into the scene, he comes in, he jumps, right? And then there's like a splash screen where it's him, and then the background is like black and red stripes, and it's like Brad.
Yeah, you need a massive power chord, don't you? That's what you need, a big, massive, grungy metal power chord there. I think that's what you'd expect to hear with a guy like that. I think a bit sort of Duke Nukem-y, and I kind of feel
right. I think every time he enters the room, everybody knows it, and so I think definitely with the music, when he's there, you know it.
Yeah, you could write several ditties that were all different, but the same kind of sound, but so they don't get repetitive. So you'd write maybe 4 or 5, 6, 7 or 8, little guitar-based ditties that when he turns up, you hear those, so he's coming.
Yeah. So we forgot to mention the fourth character, who's actually the bad guy who committed the murder. So if you don't want to know any spoilers, guys, close your ears. Right? Okay. So the murderer. There's a lot of side quests in this game, so it's a pretty expansive game. But the murderer for the main quest line is actually a werewolf. Right? Vampires, werewolves. So the werewolf though is in the form of a cute dog who appears throughout the entire story, and it's that link, right? He's in every single chapter. He walks in, it's kind of comedic, blah blah blah, but you just don't know that he is the werewolf until the very end, when there's this whole scene between Brad Helsing and you and Derek, and then the dog comes in, and Brad thinks that you're the murderer because he finds out that you're a vampire, and then there's this dog that walks in. So this dog, this unnamed dog, is also he plays a big role in this story. He's in it. He's throughout the whole thing.
So I think you need that same thing again. You get a big build up.
Right.
But oh my God, it's a werewolf. And you see it's a little cute dog, right?
Definitely.
You're not seeing Monty Python and the Holy Grail where there's a rabbit that can kill you. Have you seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Heck yeah.
It's only a rabbit, and they walk and they take his head straight off, right?
Yeah.
You need that. So you need that kind of, oh, look, it's a little cute, and you kind of kind of a little cutie tune as you approach the little dog, and then it just, and you need something that's a big, massive, huge, orchestral thing that sort of portrays that gravitas of that moment. But until that, it's a really cute little thing. He's a cute little dog. It's going to be great until he actually attacks, and you kind of get the big, oh my God, your head's gone.
And we could do somewhat of like a reverse of that, maybe earlier on when you think, oh no, something's in the closet, that has to be the murder, and there's a big build of suspense and it opens and it's just the dog.
Right.
And then like kind of the reverse where then it's kind of like a letdown.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's what I think a good comedic thing with that would be.
Yeah. So theme song. I was kind of workshopping things. I'm like, hey, Grant, I'm a big fan. I was kind of workshopping things today. Okay. So I'm a huge fan of Grabbed by the Ghoulies. That's my favorite Rare game. It's my favorite game you've worked on.
Right.
So I was thinking, I don't want to steal that whole vibe, but our game needs a theme song. So I was thinking, Dynamite Vampire Hot Pursuit, right? You think that? It sounds similar, I know, but we should change it up a little. You think so? I don't think we need to workshop anymore on that one, right? Right? Yeah.
What can I say? It's a hit.
I mean, hey, it's a one-hit wonder, you know. It worked for Grab by the Ghoulies. It can work for Dynamite Vampire Hot Pursuit.
So what kind of game is this? Is it like an RPG? Is it a first-person shooter?
It's like a point-and-click adventure game. Like you remember those old kind of super
like
frustrating
Pajama
games.
Sam? You know, like Pajama Sam.
I like Monkey Island.
Yeah, absolutely like Monkey Island. Yeah,
I love Monkey Island. Full Throttle. All
it's a
those
good one.
games. Day of the Tentacle. Indiana Jones.
Yes,
those games are absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and that would be how this one would work. And then I think we'd have to keep some of the annoying things that make that genre special. But
what do I need to get past this door? What do I need to get past this door? You need a blindfold to put on Derek to get him to go through the door or something like that. You know, you just.
I love those point and click games. They were there. I first started Rare, I played all of those, all the LucasArts ones. They were just fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's say there's a hub world, Grant. What do you picture that sounding like?
Well, I think that's where you'd have maybe a bit more of your like film noir, so it'd be very tame. I'm thinking pizzicato strings. I'm thinking vibes. I'm thinking, what else am I thinking about? Like maybe a bit of celeste at the top of it. So it's spooky.
Yeah.
It's a mixture between spooky and that kind of film noir. You know, Humphrey Bogart sat with a cigarette with his trilby hat down, you know, in the corner, and it's black and white, and you know that's how I'd see it.
Yeah, we do have a hub world. We talked about this in the episode. This is from episode 8 of Games Sold Separately. Where at the end of every mission or when you want to take a break, you go back into his detective office and then Derek is sleeping in the background, which is breaking the vampire trope right there where vampires don't sleep, right? So the comedic value is, all right, we're going on another mission. And Derek's like, I'm awake. I was awake the whole time. And so, but that whole menu section is just you at your desk, hunched over, maybe smoking a cigarette, working and trying to connect the dots. And but it does need to be a little bit comedic because you got Derek sleeping on the mattress behind you.
Yeah, I think the hub worlds it needs to come down because people often sit there and just sit there and leave it on for a while. So any hub worlds that I've done or kind of pause screens are always a bit tamer because you need to leave it on for hours. You know, if you know like the pause menu in Goldeneye, like just something that kind of or Perfect Dark that ticks away that keeps the atmosphere there, so you don't lose the immersion. Yeah, not getting intrusive.
I think music that just brings you down, but also makes you want to go in again. Like, this feels good. I'm just relaxing right now. It makes you feel like you are Edward Van Samsonite and you are getting this case and you're sitting at that desk and you're taking the break and drinking the coffee. I love that. I think that's great. I think you're making some hits, dude. I think you're making some hits. I think we need to sign you onto the payroll. It's currently $0, but
you gotta make all of our we make $0, but you can have at least 25% of that.
You can have at least 25% of zero
for sound design.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. I'm in.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
There
cool.
We go.
We definitely
success. We did it, Zach.
You need to mail us 5 cassette tapes worth of Dynamite Vampire Hot Pursuit music by Monday. We're expecting that by Monday.
I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
Sounds
awesome.
Perfect.
So much. I think that would be an excellent game if it were real.
It will be. Grant's going to get us in with the guys he knows. It's all about who you know, guys. And Grant knows. We know Grant now, and Grant's going to get us in at least one of our games. Thank you.
There we go.
There you go.
Did it. Zach, we're finally doing it.
Yes. We did it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Grant.
See you guys later. Thank you.
Catch you later.
Anytime.
Cool. Grant, that was awesome. So you like the game?
I do. It sounds good. It sounds right up my street. That is. I like that kind of game.
Yeah, those
Spooky,
are super fun.
Murdery, you know, I don't know. I like that stuff. It's great.
And Zach brought up a game that I haven't thought about in years, which is Grab by the Ghoulies.
I did like
what was your do what?
That was great fun doing that game. We loved that game.
You enjoyed it?
Oh yeah, fantastic. Like, you know, when we finished Banjo-Kazooie, Greg was like, right, we're doing a haunted house game. It's like, yes, haunted house game, you know. So it just didn't quite reach the audience. I mean, we had a rough time then because, you know, Nintendo, we got bought by Microsoft. So we did start that game on the GameCube. So, you know, it was working on Nintendo hardware. Then we just got bought by Microsoft to change to the Xbox. A lot of the Nintendo fanboys just didn't like us anymore, you know, and so just didn't work out. And I think the game was, I think it was maybe slightly simplistic in the controls, but it was a really fun game. It was full of really fantastic characters, like just the usual rare. It's a Banjo team, you know. It's all the rare humor was in there. I think people give it a wide berth, but when they brought Rare Replay out, so much good press, good sort of people mailing in about how much they enjoyed playing Glad by the Goonies because they just hadn't played it. And when they got Rare Replay, it was sat in there, they were just going, this is a great game. They really liked it. So I guess they liked it in the end, you know.
Yeah, it was a beautiful game. Another game that I love that you worked on was a ukulele. I remember when that was announced, and I was like, yes, Grant is on that. Makes perfect sense. And David Wise. Like, that was like a match made in heaven. That
was crazy. That whole Kickstarter thing was absolutely ridiculous. Like, this, you know, none of those moments you kind of go, that's just, yeah, but there's no words for it. It is absolutely amazing. People put all that money in for that game. Crazy.
And did you approach the music differently in that than Banjo-Kazooie? Because it was labeled as a successor to Banjo-Kazooie. So did you approach that differently?
No, I think I was trying to do Banjo-Kazooie. I was trying to hit enough touch points so the banjo flavor was in there. That was the whole point of it, right, for me. You know, It wasn't a knockoff game, but it was, you know, to try and touch the warm, fuzzy bits that everyone remembers from Banjo-Kazooie. So I did try hard to do that, while hopefully being a better composer, because it was 20 years later that, you know, hopefully I'm better now than I was then. Obviously, there's no guarantees, but, you know, I feel like I am. So, yeah, we tried our best with that one. We really did.
Absolutely. And Grant, thank you so much for being on the show. And I think we've got one more treat for you guys. Grant is going to play on his trusty ukulele and kazoo.
Well, so, we're gonna have a go.
We're gonna take it away, Grant.
Let me just tilt the camera down so you can see what I'm doing with my little ukulele. This ukulele is a very expensive instrument. It's, you know, it's a whole $40. It's not.
Oh my God!
It's not really very good.
And Grant spent another $40 on this for a microphone, which I really appreciate.
Believe that, I know.
Just for me, I feel very special.
My trusty kazoo.
Beautiful.
So I haven't done this for a while, so there's no guarantee I'm going to get it right. But I'll have a go. Is it working? I think it is. So
sounds good.
Let me just rearrange myself. Perhaps you can all sing along as we do it. You just vanished off the camera. Is that what's happened? I can't see you anymore. Are you still there?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just like soloing it. So
sorry. I thought you vanished.
No. I'm just going on here.
I want to see you dancing along. You have to hum along.
Do you want me to stay?
Yeah, I want you to hum along. Hum along, won't you? Hum along with it. Ready? I got some of the chords wrong, but I tried my best.
Awesome. Grant, is there anything else you would love to tell the people about just video games in general? Or actually, let's close it off with this. Like, what's some advice that you would give to just someone wanting to break the video game industry or just music or anything?
Make sure you meet people that are making games. That's the most important thing. Don't just sit in your bedroom and be good. Get to meet people that are making games. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So meet the games makers wherever they are. They're all out there. You just got to go and find them. And second thing to do is everybody should write to Illumination, the movie company, and say, you know that guy, Grant Kirkhope? He'd be great for that Mario movie. So you should all send letters to Illumination. That's what you should do. I'm very grateful.
And what's the studio that does all the Bond films? Or is it multiple?
Eon is called. Eon, they own the Bond license. But
yes, so also email them.
I think that's going to be a little bit too far. But Illumination, come on, you can do it. I'll give you all $5 each. Forget it.
Totally worth it. And okay, real quick, if you had to write the theme for it for the Mario movie, like as soon as the beginning credits like roll up and the title screen pops up, would you do the typical like did it, or would you do something completely different?
I think it needs to be probably one of those. I don't know which one. I mean, I do like the theme that I use for Peach's Castle in Mario Rabbids. I like that. That's my favorite Mario theme. But, you know, put it this way, you name it, I'd do it if I got that movie. I don't care what they want. I'll do it. No problem at all. You want to do that? I'm in. And, you know, but also, Koji Kondo is an absolute legend, right? So to get to touch any of his music is just spectacular. So you name it, I'll do it.
Incredible. And I think we'll end this with answering some questions. So I'm not seeing a lot of questions. If you guys want to ask any questions before we leave, like please do in the chat. Let's see. We got one. Hi, Grant. Thank you so much for the great interview so far. I have a friend who wants to know if you did the rap at the beginning of Donkey Kong 64.
Well, I wrote it. I didn't actually rap on it. So I wrote the rap, right? But the rappers were George Andreas, who's a game designer, and Chris Sutherland, who was the lead programmer on Banjo. Chris Sutherland can do tons of voices. He did Banjo-Kazooie and tons of stuff. Like, he's a real good voice guy. But they were the rappers. And the chorus was most of the Banjo team. They did the DK, Donkey Kong bit. They did the chorus, but Chris and George did the actual rap, and I wrote it. So
nice. Let's see what else we got. Is there any regrets Grant has any for his game music tracks or for any games he worked on?
You know what? No, but I have to get asked that. And it sounds a bit of a cop out, but honestly, I've been so lucky the projects that I've worked on. I've not had anything. Only had one game that I've not enjoyed that I kind of quit. Right. Everything else I've worked on over my 25 years or whatever it is so far, I've honestly genuinely enjoyed it. So I just think I've been really lucky. I guess it could easily go the other way, but I guess people hire you for things that they think you might be good for. So maybe that's a reason. But there's only one project that I haven't enjoyed, honestly.
Gotcha. Let's see. Hi, Grant. Why are so many songs in the key of C in the Banjo-Kazooie soundtrack?
It's not only Banjo-Kazooie, it's everything else. That's because, I'm a really, really, no word of a lie, I'm a terrible piano player. So
really?
Oh my God, I can't, I'm a brass player. I was cleaning trumpet, right? Trumpet was my classical, that's what I was trained in, and I'm a metal guitar player. So, having to write music on piano was alien to me. I mean, I took piano lessons at college, but I was really crap at it. So that's why things are in C, because there's no black notes, right? So it's easy to play. That is the honest reason. I'm still a terrible piano player right now. I just crap at it. I'm a one-handed man. Just one bit of melody, bit of chords, stick it together with a computer. I can't play. I'm terrible.
See, favorite banjo theme or Banjo-Tooie?
A Banjo-Tooie or Banjo-Wunny?
Is the favorite banjo theme ? Or favorite Banjo-Tooie theme?
So I guess in Banjo-Kazooie, I'd probably say Mad Monster Mansion.
Or he said both.
Say again?
Or he said both, actually.
Oh, okay. All right. So Banjo-Kazooie, I'd probably Mad Monster Mansion, Fiji Peaks, probably. I like those ones a lot. In Tooie, probably. God, what we're doing Tooie? I guess I like Jinjo Village. I like that a lot. It's a nice little jolly tune. But I also like Witchy World, because I love writing that, because whenever area you go into, the MIDI file switches channels to different versions of the tune. And at that point, the programmer called Will Bryan would learn to stick two MIDI files together. So I had double the channels to play with. So I could go into all the different areas in that Witchy World and keep the tune going without stopping it and restarting it. So I got to to fade to the sci-fi level and fade to the Wild West bit and all those bits I could fade to without stopping the music. So that was great. So I like those two in Banjo-Tooie. Oh, Atlantis and Banjo-Tooie. I do like Atlantis a lot.
When is Grant Kirkhope writing a book about any topic at all?
Well, close to when I'm dying, so I guess it could be any day. I don't know. I don't know. Is that, would people want to read that? I don't know. I think everyone's heard my stories by now, so all my stories are a bit done now.
Gotcha. Is there any chance there'll be more metal tracks by you? Love the ones that went up on YouTube a few years ago.
So they were from a band I was in a number of years ago. And so I kind of feel like I'm a bit old for metal now. I haven't got the hair anymore, and it's not the same. You haven't got the hair. So I don't really get asked to write much metal stuff. And I just haven't got the time to do it, really. My trouble is that because I spent such a long time being a self-taught black metal guitar player, right? And I spent all those years getting good and being fast and doing all the hammer-ons, all that, and all that kind of stuff, I kind of feel like the minute I started music as a job, it ceased. My hobbies became my job, and I just ceased to play anymore, which is crazy, really. I spent all that time, trying to be the best guitar player I possibly could be. And then the minute I started at Rare, it almost went out the window. Literally, I hardly play it. I've got two fantastic guitars sat here, I never pick them up. Unless I have to. And even then I'm a bit like, oh, I've got to play guitar, bloody hell. I don't even want to do it. So that's weird. I feel like that part of my brain doesn't do that anymore. I just write music. I don't, so if I'd been something else, but it's not music, that my hobby was completely playing the guitar, playing in bands, and wasn't became my job, I just stopped doing it. So I did that track. We took that track with Jules. Jules was like, and I was like, oh my god, I can't keep up.
So I've never heard anyone do a hammer on a ukulele. So that was cool.
I know. I've been practicing.
It sounds funny. We'll do one more question, and I know you can talk about this because I've seen you post about it. When can we expect the Banjo-Kazooie remix album?
Right. So I've been working on that for a while. Right. I have been doing that, and it was kind of my thought was this is going to sound not wrong, but I can't make any money out of Banjo-Kazooie because Rare own it and Microsoft's own it, and the only way I can get any money out of it is if I do my own remix album, then I can legally sell that. Now whether anybody buys it or not, I don't know, but I kind of thought, right, I'm going to do it. So I've got about 6 tracks or something like that at the moment. So it's slow. And the other thing that I found out about it was I don't really enjoy writing it. It's bizarre. Like I don't like going over my own music again and rewriting it. So that's been a bit something that I wasn't expecting. This has kind of been a bit. When I finish it, I'm happy with it. But getting through it's like pulling teeth. So it's been a slow process for me doing that. So I am halfway through my ska version of not Sparrow Mountain, Freeze Easy Peaks. So my next thought was, I keep asking my son, saying, have you got any suggestions that what I might do next? He said to me, why don't you pick up some of the little bee themes, like the maybe Klungo's theme and the Good Fairies theme, Banjo-Kazooie, it's all from Banjo-Kazooie. Pick the little minor themes that Nabnut, stick them all together and make an arrangement of that. I thought, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. So I might maybe try to have a crack at that after I've finished off Freeze Easy Peaks. So I'm trying to think of doing it in different styles. So I've done a few metal tracks, like symphonic metal. I've done some chiptune ones, like Game Boy sounding ones. I've done some orchestral ones. I've got my ska version of that. I did think about doing some kind of cheesy 80s version of one of the Banjo-Kazooie tunes. Maybe I might do that. I'm just trying to look for things to do that are different. I didn't want to make it all the same. And Jules is helping me out with it as well. He's doing some stuff on it as well. So we'll include the Gruntilda battle on it. So
yes, that's awesome.
That'll be on the album. So, I guess I'm heading for 10 tracks, probably 10 tracks for $10. That's what I thought.
I'll buy it.
So, there's one sale, right? That's the plan. So, but it's just when I get there, as I say, I'm fully intending to do it and get it out there. It's just when I get off my ass and get on with it.
Amazing. This is just for me to tell you, there's a really niche genre on YouTube that I absolutely love, and that's 80s remix pop song. Right. It is an amazing rabbit hole to go down.
I did think. I'm a bit of an 80s kid, really, a little bit, So it would be a laugh to do some kind of overly 80s cheesy thing with a proper 80s drum machine and all that. It would be good fun to do it. It's finding the right track to do it with. I'm not sure which track I could do that with. Yeah, as I say, I'm looking for things. That's why I asked Twitter the other day. So what should I do? Should I do ska? And they said yeah. So they suggested ska. So I did that. I think it fits it really well. I'll maybe put out another request when I finish Freeze Easy Peaks and say, any suggestions for the next one, kids? See what they say.
Amazing. Well, Grant, thank you so much for being on. And I have one last request. Can you just play us off
with anything?
On your ukulele? Yes. I'm going to bring the guy. I'm going to bring the guys back in. So
I only know one song.
It's the end of the show. Woo!
One song only. One chord.
Thank you, everybody, for the comment section. Thank you so much. This was amazing. Woo! Greg Kirkhope, everybody.
Woo!
And games sold separately. Thank you. You guys are amazing. All right, everybody. Hope you have a blessed day. I'll see you guys in the next episode.